on the stage of national politics has chosen the easy path. Instead of trying to say, I want to speak for Malaysians, say, I will speak for my community. In the past, it's I'll speak for my race, but now it's I'll speak for my race and religion as well. And if this trend continues, we know where this is all heading. So I think the desperation that we feel at the moment, this anxiety that all of us share, and the reason why there's so many independent candidates, and the reason why some of us, like myself, are supporting independent candidates, is because we are looking for those who we hope, we feel, if they were be given a chance, would actually take up this task. And it's a very, very, very difficult task. Now, I put on my invisible Bomo hat, and I want to talk about post-elections. This is actually a very difficult election to predict. I'm very happy because in the 1999 and 2004 election, I make a bit of money, when predicting the results. But this time, I'm not going. I'm not going to get involved in any, pool among my colleagues and all that, because this is going to be a very difficult election to predict. What we can say, I think, with some degree of assurance and safety, is that I think we are about to witness a swing. We're going to witness a swing. How big this swing will be and how it will translate in seats in parliaments and state assemblies, we don't know. But clearly there will be a swing. But the swing, unfortunately, will pan out in a very uneven way. From the little fieldwork I've done so far, and I'll be doing more fieldwork next week in Kelantan, but certainly in the Kuala Lumpur, Klang Valley area, it seems quite evident that the MIC in particular will be badly hit. Very, very badly hit. Now, the two worst case scenarios, it's actually one worst case scenario, but it has two faces to it. And if this vote swing happens, but the BN still wins, perhaps even retaining its 2/3 majority, but certainly not as high as before, perhaps losing 50 to 60 seats, it still has the 2/3 majority, but a significantly weakened BN. If you look at the patterns of support, the expression of support so far at the Ceramas, it's very clear that there is a swing on the part of the non-Malays and non-Muslims. But the Malay voters are more or less stagnant. So how will this translate? It will translate as a BN that wins, but with a weakened MIC, almost paralyzed, and a severely weakened MCA as well. That, combined with the demographic reality of Malaysia, the uneven expansion of the various racial communities, ethnic communities in this country, means that you're going to have a significantly stronger UMNO dominating a BN, where the non-Malay component parties will become increasingly redundant. Yeah, that's one side. Now the other side is, we do feel, I think many of us feel, that there will be a significant swing of votes with the opposition parties. But what sort of composition will we have? Will we have a 99 composition, or an 86 composition, or 2004 composition? In other words, let's say the opposition parties win anything between 40 to 60 seats. Will the swing go for PAS, and you have a powerful PAS dominating the opposition? Or will you have a swing for DAP that will dominate the opposition? And the other third crucial question is, how big will be the share for keadilan in negeri? Now, if the swing goes to PAS, we go back to 99. You have an emboldened PAS, and we all saw what PAS did when it was emboldened. Next thing you know, it's Taliban are our brothers, because they no longer need the support of their coalition partners. Likewise, DAP, if it were to get too strong, may feel that it doesn't need keadilan and PAS anymore. And then, of course, if keadilan does not win significantly enough seats to make its presence felt as a moderating, bridge-building force between, my fear is that the opposition will be a bipolar opposition. And these two sides of the worst-case scenario spell very different long-term consequences for Malaysia. An emboldened UMNO would feel that it is in a position to push forward even further on its Islamization program. It can still maintain the rhetoric of Islam Hadari, but on the ground level, and we go back to the memo given by these NGOs, the memo clearly states that it wants an implementation of all these promises and reforms and changes that have been made on a constitutional basis. Yeah. Memo basically says, it's not enough that you create this morality police, we want them to act. We want them to start arresting. And these demands, then you pass the bill. Say, okay, you got your Malay vote, now do what we want. We want these books to be banned, we want these ceramas to be banned, we want the state to explicitly state that Malaysia is not a plural secular state anymore. And the pressures bearing on UMNO then will be very strong. And likewise, with the opposition, as I spelled out earlier, a dominant pass, an over-dominant pass, or an over-dominant DAP would then fragment our Malaysian pact among citizens. Because what we Malaysian citizens want is basically a return to return Malaysia back to us. And we are nowhere closer to having a national politics that is truly national, that reflects the plurality of the Malaysian public. So whatever happens in these elections, we have to prepare for the post-election scenario. Because these demands, clearly the state of Malaysian politics today, the demands being made on the Malaysian political establishment now are couched in communitarian, racial and religious terms. So people like him will have a lot of business in fact, be very busy afterwards, because there will be more and more of these controversies involving book banning, conversion, religious freedom, etc., etc. So people like us will be more occupied with this. But one thing we must not forget, I think, as Malaysian citizens and Malaysian voters, is that we've given our trust. We gave our trust to this establishment in 2004. The Malaysian public gave them this mandate. We now also give our trust to the opposition. Whoever wins, whatever the ratio is, we cannot relent on the demands that we are making. Because I think what is really unique, and this is, I'll end with this, and this is my answer to the Singaporean journalist earlier. The good side, the silver lining behind all this is that the Malaysian public today, I think, has really reached the level of maturity, a maturity that Singapore doesn't have, by the way. Yeah? We've reached the level of maturity where we now feel that we can actively participate and make demands of these people, and we should not be shy of making these demands. We should not be shy to demand that now that PAS has agreed to relegate to the background its Islamic State demands, after the elections we need to remind them of this. Yeah? This is not just a 1 month election gimmick. You've made your commitment to the Barisan Rakyat Manifesto, now you stick to it. Likewise our demands on the AP, likewise our demands on the ruling parties of the coalition as well. You've promised us this first world country with first world mentality, so let's see it. Let's see it. So I think whatever happens at these elections, the momentum has already begun. And I think in that respect, I think, regardless of which party wins or loses, we, the Malaysian public, can turn this into a winning situation for us. And we should reap this election, and squeeze the maximum benefit we can out of it. Because I think we've reached a certain level of political maturity that, finally means that perhaps Malaysia is no longer a nation in waiting or a nation in denial. That we are witnessing actually the birth of a truly Malaysian nation for the first time. And I think that, despite all the negative prognosis, that I think is something that we can be genuinely happy about. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Farish. Maybe I'll just talk a little bit about the Barisan Rakyat. Do all of you know what that's about? Yeah, some of us. Okay, maybe since he referred to that, Barisan Rakyat was formed by a couple of people. One of the primary movers of that was Haris Ibrahim, who is also a human rights lawyer. What they did was they got together a People's Declaration, and they sent the People's Declaration. Thank you so much. Okay, so what has happened is that the Barisan Rakyat has endorsed these 6 parties and has asked the citizens to say the Barisan Rakyat supports these parties, but the Barisan Rakyat is not owned by any one of the parties. The parties submit to the Barisan Rakyat. So who takes precedence and who is actually the ruling power is the citizens. And I think that is a good way to move forward, because you're really talking about the citizens' voices, civil society, which is the way to move forward in any democratic society. Of course, Malaysia is a pseudo-democracy, so we're not quite there yet, but this is the way to move forward. I'd just like to pick up on one point. I just want to ask Dr. Farish one question, and then after that we'll move to Malik's response. So we talked about how Malaysian society has progressed so much. We are educated, we have access to information on the internet, and so on. And so that gives us a sort of positive feel that, yay, we're riding the wave, this is the change. But the question on all of our minds is that, is this really a change that's going to hit the rest of the country? Because we know that internet access is only available within the more urban areas of the country. Is it more dominant amongst the Chinese